Hey guys, this is episode 7 of Learning How to Read Music Theory. I hope you have your popcorn for this one because it's gonna be a good one. Roll the intro. Okay, let's get started in this episode with the answer to the challenge from my previous episode. And just as a reminder, if you're new to my channel, please go ahead and subscribe now. And as usual, don't forget to like this video if you find it helpful or interesting. So here is that same staff with the same 5 notes from last episode. Your challenge was to guess which note was the highest pitched one, which note was the lowest pitched one, and which note was in the middle, based on what we learned last lesson. Now, if we look at the staff and we're looking for our highest pitched note, all we have to do is look for the one that is highest physically on the staff, and that is note number 4. And now if we're looking for the one that is lowest pitched, all we have to do is look for the one that is lowest physically on the staff, and that is note number 2. And the one in the middle is literally the one that is physically in the middle on the staff right now, and that is note number 3. So how'd you do? Did you get all 3 correct? Let me know how you did in the comments below. If you didn't do so well or you're confused about anything, please ask me a question in the comments and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay, so in this episode, we're going to be learning how we name these notes. And so you may be saying, Mr. Erdogan, we already learned how to name these notes. There's a quarter note, there's a half note, a whole note, etc., etc. Well, what we're going to be talking about is completely different, and we won't be able to use our pizza slices or those names that we learned previously for this. The names that we've already learned only tell us how long we play our notes for. Now we have to learn a different set of names for the notes that tell us if they're high-pitched or low-pitched notes. And each of our pitches are simply named with letters from the English alphabet. And much like the alphabet, it starts with A, and then goes B, and then C, and D, and E, and F, and G. But that's it. There's no H, there's no I, there's no J, or anything else. So just letters A to G. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now you might be saying, what if we have a note that's higher than G? Are you sure there's no H? Yes, I'm sure. There's no H. What we actually do in that case is we start again at A and continue up the same way. And I'm going to be explaining that a little bit more in detail in a moment. So now we're going to learn how to find those letter names for each of the notes. There are 2 tricks we can use to find any note, and right now I'm going to be teaching you the first one. So the first trick I always teach is called face on the space. And that probably sounds confusing right now, but I'm going to explain how it works and what it means. So let's look back at our blank staff. If you look closely, you'll see that we have 5 lines, and we can actually number each of these lines. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, and line 5. And what would we call that's between the lines? Well, there's a line here, and then there's a line here, and between the line, there's nothing. So we just call it space. So we would number those spaces off as well. This would be space 1, space 2, space 3, and then space 4. So as I said before, the name of the trick is called face on the space, and that literally means we spell the word face on all the spaces, starting from the bottom space and going up to the top. So F goes on the bottom space, then A on the second space, then C on our third space, and finally E goes on the 4th space. So when we're using this trick, we always have to remember that we have to start from the bottom and then go up from there. You may have noticed that while I was counting the lines and the spaces, I started from the bottom. If I started from the top, everything would be completely different and incorrect. Now you might be saying, how am I going to remember to start from the bottom? The trick that I use to teach my students to remember that we have to start from the bottom is to think about how we climb a ladder. Imagine you're trying to climb a ladder. You're not going to jump up to the middle point of the ladder or jump up to the top of the ladder and then climb down. You're going to start climbing from the bottom and work your way up. And I actually call this my musical ladder. And I'll also be referencing that quite a bit. So if you forget about it now, don't worry, I will remind you. Okay, let's practice for a bit. Here's a fresh staff with just 1 note. So how can we find the letter name of this note? Well, we just learned a new trick, so let's start by using our face on the space trick. So the way we're going to start doing this is by putting the first letter, the letter F, on the first space, then the letter A on the next space, then C, and finally E. And now that we've done all that, we can look over to our note and see that it happens to be right on the same space that has our E on it. So now we know that that note is an E. Okay, let's try another note. So here we have a note that is on our second space, and if we look along the second space over to our letters that spell out face, we can see that this note is an A, because it's resting on the space that's labeled as an A. Not too complicated, right? Okay, now what if we have a note that lands on one of the lines? Now, I haven't taught you my trick for finding the notes on the lines yet, but you can use my musical ladder, and I'll explain a little bit more in detail about how to do that. So here we have our musical ladder, and we can actually put our note names on this musical ladder. So here we have an A, a B, C, D, E, F, G. And remember, no H or I or J or any other notes. It just goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And as I said before, once we get to the G, it continues A, B, C, and so on and so forth. And that must mean below our lowest A, it would also continue because there are lower notes too. So we would have to go backwards. It would go G, F, E, D, C, and so on and so forth. So if we think about our first trick, face on the space, and we go ahead and find those letters on our musical ladder, F, A, C, E, we can see what's in between them as well. And if we look back at our staff, we can see that this note happens to be between two of our letters. So I'm going to leave you with that information for this challenge, and you can try to figure it out before the next episode. Feel free to let me know what you think the answer is in the comments below. And if you had any difficulties or found something confusing, you can ask me a question in the comments below too. That's it for this episode, guys. If you found this video helpful or interesting, please like this video and make sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notifications of all my future episodes. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next episode.